Hi everyone, welcome back to Pine Hollow Auto Diagnostics. We're at a local shop looking at a 2010 Jeep Wrangler, less than 100,000 miles. Customer complaint is it just stalled out on the highway, didn't want to crank, like a low battery symptom. Battery was replaced. It was fine for a week maybe. Then it came back again with a low battery and they checked the voltage here and they said it wasn't charging. So the old alternator was apparently squealing. This Jeep has been underwater. I don't know. They found water in this connector, like some of the pins were corroded in here. So that's just what they told me. And this is the third alternator on this Jeep. They tried a benchmark reman, now a CarQuest reman. Nothing's working. The Jeep is not charging at all. It's not setting any trouble codes in the engine computer for the charging system. So it just says O2 sensor circuit low codes, but you see the voltage here is below 12 right now. So it's definitely not charging. Right now we're at 11.4 on the battery. And let's take a look at the description and operation of this charging system. It's computer controlled, and figure out why this thing's not charging at all. So description operation here, again, apologies for the glare, but you can pull this up on your own information database if you have a subscription to ALLDATA, for example. But pretty simple layout. We have our alternator, two wires going to one, which is the PCM. Then there's the battery, there's the TIPM, and then there's apparently a wire that connects, that's the main charge, fat cable that charges the battery. Okay, so PCM or ECM receives a voltage input from the generator 5 and also battery voltage input 7 from the TIPM. Okay, so there and there. Then it compares the voltages to the desired voltage programmed in the electronic voltage regulator. And then it commands on the second wire, control circuit to, it's a pulse width modulated signal to ramp up the alternator. Okay, so there's no battery light on the dash. Voltage is monitored at the B plus terminal stud to ensure it's connected. Okay, so we have scan data, generator duty cycle, and voltage sense. And then on the scope, right here I have two channels connected. Channel 1 is that duty cycle command from the PCM. Channel 2 is the voltage sense wire coming out of that alternator. Now already, do we see a problem? It's 8.6 volts. Right there, 8.6. Can we trust our reading? So maybe I should relocate my grounds to battery negative just to be 100%. Let me do that so we can trust our voltage readings. Well, actually no, we're still at 8.6 volts, so that ground is the same as the battery ground. So we know that this voltage sense wire right now is only at 8.6 volts. What about the positive stud? Let me get another back probe because that one's nice and in the connector already. Let's try that with the red channel. So right there, that's close to 12 volts. And if we plug it back in to our sense wire, now I don't know if this is supposed to be, straight pass through, if there's some circuitry in there. 8.6. Now let's fire up the Jeep, look at scan data and the scope, see if the duty cycle command is there or what's going on. Alright, hopefully this battery still has some, it's a little sluggish. Look at that, it says generator duty cycle almost 100%, voltage sense 10.9. We don't have a duty cycle. So what if we provide the duty cycle with a test light from battery positive. Let's try that. Alright, so from battery positive, if the test light finds the ground, it's going to light up. Now let's just put it on that. Okay, so we have a little light. Did anything change on scan data? Nope. I think we need a brighter test light because that's running the whole field circuit. Let me get like a 1 amp test light. Alright, here we go. 4 amps now. Ooh, didn't like that. I wonder if it overloaded the alternator. What about 1 amp? Will 1 amp do it? Generator 0. And the voltage did bump up a little bit, so let's try to keep this thing running with 1 amp on the alternator. I lost communication. I want to add some more amperage here. I really did not like that. You see the voltage does start to go up because this battery is completely discharged. How do we do this? We leave the test light plugged in, then start it. Okay, 4 amps going through there. There we go. It's ramping up, 12.6, 12.7. You can see we're at 6 volts now. So, yeah, alternator is definitely fine, but we're missing a command. Alright, so with 5 amps going to the alternator, this alternator is putting out 64 amps, so that's good. We're ramping up the voltage here. So let me run it for a little bit, charge up this battery, and then we'll figure out which pin on the computer is the duty cycle pin. Perhaps that went bad. So with the test light bypass, the battery light did come on. And let's see here on scan data. We're still at 100% duty cycle, 13.1 volts. 13.1 is the real voltage. Okay. Let's see what codes we set. Evap purge control, generator field control circuit open. Okay, that's because we're bypassing with a test light. And then 2 oxygen sensor codes. Interesting. Alright, so once it warmed up, it's kind of stalling out. Starts up. Now the oil pressure light, they said that they found water in the oil pressure sensor connector. It's not happy. If we disconnect our bypass, seems to run perfectly fine, but it's not charging. So we'll have to diagnose the oil pressure light as well. That's kind of important. And then, you know, engine runs super smooth. It's not knocking or anything. But is this a PCM problem? Since we bypassed that circuit, it's set to 622 generator field control circuit open. So the PCM sees that line. It's not a wiring problem. It just can't supply voltage on that line. So we don't need to go to the PCM and, you know, do wiring checks and stuff. They actually already did. Connectors look fine. So we're calling bad PCM on this Jeep. Let's make sure we're making the right call here. By the way, this Jeep for sure has been underwater because everything is covered in mud. I know from experience, from my own Suzuki, that when stuff gets submerged, it looks like this. I mean, you see chunks of dried mud on there. So, yeah, I guess these connectors are not 100% waterproof. I'll show you what they did here. So you can see on this connector, these pins, the lower ones, they were green and crusty for sure. Now the pins survived. A lot of dielectric grease. But yeah, I really don't know if a new PCM will fix all these problems. Alright, doing a couple quick wiring checks before calling this engine computer. So we want to check the Gen Duty and the Gen Sense wires. So Gen Duty is C2 pin 19. That would be this one here. Test light from battery positive. It lights up, and on the scope I can see a slight voltage rise. You know, that's perfect. Wires carrying current through the alternator. And then the Sense wire, right now it's at 12 volts. So if we connect our test light to battery ground, it's going to be connector C1 pin 24. So 87654. See, it pulls that right down. Wiring's good. Alternator works. PCM is shot. Obviously you want to check powers and grounds to the PCM, but truck runs perfect. We can check the main constant battery power. I mean, ignition's good, it fires up. ASD relay output's fine. It's just that generator control circuit that's messed up inside this box. Let's start up one more time, take a look at the oil pressure. Connector C1 pin 20, violet gray wire, see what that looks like on scan data. Alright, so for the oil pressure switch, it's just a single wire switch. So right now it says true. I have it unplugged. Crawl under the Jeep, and they already replaced the oil pressure switch. It's just a switch, it's not a 3-wire sending unit or anything. So, plug it back in. See, it says false. So change state, wiring integrity is fine. We start up. It says false, so it didn't change state when we started the engine, and we have that little genie lamp on. So either there's no oil pressure, or the switch is faulty. The new switch, I don't know if it's aftermarket, might be garbage, but at least the wiring is good and the computer can see that input. So, but regardless, it needs an engine computer. So quick follow-up on the Jeep Wrangler that apparently went swimming and wasn't charging, and it had that oil pressure light on. Concerning. So the shop, they tried looking for a used or new PCM. It's discontinued. Dealer couldn't get one. eBay didn't have it. So they ended up sending the original PCM out to a company. I didn't get the name of it. But they refurbished it for 300 bucks. And they plugged it in. And the Jeep charged to 14.3 volts. So that was a PCM problem. For the oil pressure switch, the unit they installed was an aftermarket unit. I told them OEM, double check that there is oil pressure, obviously, and install an OEM sensor. So that fixed that problem. What's the lesson of the day? Well, I mean, Chrysler PCMs aren't the most reliable to begin with, and if they go swimming, that decreases their chances for survival. And I mean, if you have modules under the hood, it's not a good idea to submerge them in water. That's all I can say. I mean, I know it's a Jeep, but going through deep puddles at your own risk. So, happy ending in that one. Customer's driving it, hopefully not going through any more swimming holes or anything. So that's it. Thanks all for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.